Favor Cat walked down the village street, her newly acquired feminine curves swaying like a pendulum, casting a spell over every man she passed. Their eyes widened, jaws dropped, and some even forgot to breathe, frozen like statues as if Favor had bewitched them. One man walked straight into a tree, his gaze never leaving her attractive hips, hypnotized by Favor's mesmerizing figure. How did this magical transformation happen? Sit back and enjoy this hilarious tale of Abutu, his cunning wife Favor, and their mischievous twin sons, James and John. In the ancient kingdom of Elegushi, wealth was the true measure of the man, and for poor Abutu, it seemed that God had not deemed him fit for any blessings. Living in a small mud hut with his wife Favor and their twin sons James and John, Abutu was the village laughing stock. While the men of Elegushi hunted expensive games and cheated in trade for cool cash, Abutu, a farmer, did neither, not out of integrity, but because the mere thought of taking risks or dealing with stress was something he was not cut out for. Favor, on her part, never hesitated to lambast her husband for their miserable state. She often grumbled, "If only I had curves like my sister Ebube, I would have married a rich man instead of you and your lizard belly." But alas, her plain figure meant no wealthy suitor never came calling, leaving her stuck with Abutu. Their sons, James and John, were no better. At just 10 years old, they were already little terrors, stealing and causing chaos all over the village. Even they mocked their parents' poverty. "Papa, why are you so poor?" they would tease, much to their father's dismay. Abutu could only sigh, knowing that in a village full of cunning traders and daring hunters, he was the odd man out. One fateful day, as Abutu wandered through the village, he stumbled upon an old blind man sitting by the roadside, holding a handful of coins, some gold, some silver. The old man cried out for help, asking someone to separate the coins for him. The villagers, being the sharp and dubious lot they were, took advantage of the man, pocketing the gold and silver coins and leaving him with worthless copper. When the blind man called out to Abutu, something strange happened. Without thinking twice, Abutu dutifully separated the coins, handing the gold and the silver back to the old man before leaving. "Wait!" the old man called out. As Abutu turned around, he was shocked to see that the old man's eyes were now clear and sharp. The man laughed heartily at Abutu's wide-eyed stare and revealed that he was no ordinary man but a spirit ancestor testing his descendants. "Since you were honest with me," the old man said, "I will grant you 7 wishes, one for each day over the next week. But be warned, you cannot wish for more wishes, nor can you wish for death upon another." Before Abutu could respond, the old man vanished, leaving him standing there, stunned. Abutu ran home as fast as his legs could carry him, bursting through the door of their little hut, gasping for breath. Favor, who was busy preparing their dinner, looked up in surprise. "What is wrong with you, Abutu? Have you finally gone mad?" she asked, hands on her hips. "I met an old man, a spirit ancestor. He gave me 7 wishes," Abutu blurted out, his voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Favor, ever the skeptic, rolled her eyes. 7 wishes? Ha! If you had any sense, you would wish for wealth or a bigger house, or better yet, wish for a big stomach like all the successful men in this village. I'm tired of looking at this lizard belly. At first, Abutu tried to brush her off, but Favor, relentless as ever, kept pestering and mocking him until he caved. To get back at her, he angrily said, "Okay then, I wish for a big belly." No sooner had the words left his mouth than his flat stomach ballooned out, growing large and round like a drum. Both husband and wife stared at the miraculous sight in shock. "You foolish woman! You made me waste a wish on this!" Abutu cried, clutching his newly expanded belly. "So it's true!" Favor shouted back, her eyes wide with astonishment. "And you, big fool, you wished for a big belly instead of something useful," she said as they argued angrily. Their twin sons, James and John, wandered in from outside. Seeing their father's absurd new figure, they burst out laughing, pointing and mocking him. "Papa, what happened to you? Did you swallow a pot?" James teased, while John doubled over in laughter. And so, in typical fashion, the first of his 7 wishes was wasted on nothing more than a belly full of trouble, leaving both him and Favor to wonder what the next 6 days would bring. As the night deepened, Abutu lay on the tattered mat, tossing and turning like a restless fish out of water. His newly acquired pot belly was as uncomfortable as it was ridiculous. Meanwhile, his wife Favor paced around the small mud hut, her mind spinning like a village gossip's tongue. She wasn't thinking about the burden her husband carried, but was instead plotting how she could use the remaining 6 wishes. Yes, in her mind, the wishes were hers, not Abutu's. After all, she mused, who else but me could decide how to spend these blessings? She had always dreamed of having a curvaceous figure like her sister Ebube. Favor had a straight, plain figure like an abandoned yam stick, while Ebube, on the other hand, was well-shaped, attracting suitors like flies to ripe fruit. Favor's frustration boiled over as she envisioned herself with the curves of a goddess. But while she fantasized, Abutu lay groaning like a goat in labor. His belly made sleep impossible. Very early the next day, unable to bear discomfort any longer, Abutu wished his second wish. "I wish this belly to disappear," he muttered, and instantly his belly shrunk back to its usual pitiful size. Relieved, he sighed, but his relief was short-lived. When Favor noticed the belly was no more, she flew into a rage. "You useless man!" she screamed. "You wasted another wish, you empty-headed yam. Now, we have only 5 left." Her voice was so loud that the twins rushed to their parents' room to find out what was happening. At that moment, Favor threw a pot at her husband's head. Abutu ducked, but instead of hitting its target, the pot smashed into John's head. As the twins walked in, John crumbled like a wet rag and fell into a coma. They rushed him to a native doctor, but his efforts were as effective as pouring water on a stone. John remained almost lifeless. The next morning, Abutu, with a heavy heart, used his 3rd wish. "I wish for my son to recover." John instantly sprang back to life, but Favor was furious. "Chimo, hey, you have wasted yet another wish, you goat-headed man," Favor fumed. We could have waited for him to recover on his own, but no, you had to play the hero and waste another wish. Abutu was livid. How can you say that? He yelled. Our son was half dead because of your foolishness, and now you're complaining? What do you want from me? What do you want exactly for me to wish for next, Favor? He asked, his voice full of anger. Without missing a beat, Favor replied, I want to be the most curvaceous woman in the whole village of Elegushi, so all the men will admire me. Abutu looked at his wife with disgust. Vanity upon vanity, he muttered. Tomorrow morning, you wake up with your wish granted so you can finally leave me in peace. James, who had been listening, couldn't stay quiet any longer. He stepped out boldly, though only 10 years old, and said, So, Mama, this poverty doesn't disgust you? Instead of wishing for riches, you want to waste a wish on feminine curves? It's none of your business, Favor snapped. And for your information, I have plans for the remaining wishes. First, I'll wish for all the gold coins in the world. Then, I'll wish for Ebube's death, that foolish sister of mine who mocks me for being flat-chested. And finally, I'll wish for long life. Wow, Mama, James said, amazed. I thought Papa was the one with the wishes, but it seems you've hijacked them all. Papa, are you going to just sit there like a carved monkey? When will you be a man and make decisions for yourself? James demanded. Favor, annoyed, knocked her son on the head. Shut up and don't talk when elders are speaking. I will talk, James retorted. You almost killed my twin brother, and now you want to waste the remaining wishes. The two of them barked at each other like quarreling dogs until Abutu, fed up, shouted in frustration, I wish you two would just shut up. And just like that, Favor and James's lips sealed tight as if glued together, rendering them completely mute. Abutu had mistakenly used his fourth wish in anger, and now he was filled with regret. The next morning, Favor and James were still dumb, their mouths glued shut. Realizing his mistake, Abutu sighed heavily. I wish their lips would unseal. He muttered, using up his fifth wish. Instantly, their lips became free and they could speak again. Favor wasted no time. You big-headed fool, she yelled. Do you see what you've done? Now we have only 2 wishes left. Abutu shook his head in despair. 2 wishes left, he echoed. And at this rate, I might not live to see them through, he added sadly. Favor waited until the day was about to break, her heart pounding with determination. She quietly slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the kitchen, where she placed a sharp knife in the burning fire, watching the blade turn red hot. The dim light of the flames flickered ominously on her face, reflecting the glint in her eyes. As she noticed her husband Abutu staring in his sleep, she crept back to his side, her breath shallow and her grip tight around the heated knife. She held the scorching blade close to his eyes and hissed, I will burn you, disfigure and terminate you if you don't wish for what I want. Abutu's eyes flew open in terror, his heart racing as he stared at his wife's crazed expression. He stammered, trying to find words, but Favor silenced him with a sharp look. Just make a wish, she demanded, her voice low and threatening. Say, I wish my wife, Favor, would have the best feminine figure and men will admire her. Shaking with fear, Abutu muttered the wish. Instantly, Favor's figure transformed. Her once plain shape became curvaceous and desirable. Her waistline hinged, her hips full. Favor looked down at herself, a wicked smile spreading across her face as she admired her new body. Now, she said, her voice dripping with malice, make another wish. Wish for my sister's death. Abutu thought, though still trembling, managed to keep his voice steady. You have to wait until tomorrow, remember? It's only one wish per day. And are you so wicked that instead of wishing for money to save this family from poverty, you're wishing for death? Favor glared at him. Of course I wanted money, but it was a fool like you who kept wasting the wishes. So I resolved to use the 2 remaining wishes smartly. One for a fine figure and the other for death of my wicked sister who always mocked me because of my flat figure. But now, with this fine figure, I would dump you and marry a rich man. So you see, I'm smart. Abutu sighed deeply. You fool. You cannot kill anyone with the wishes. You cannot wish for more wishes either. That's what the old man told me. It's a lie, Favor snapped. I want my sister dead. Well, you'll have to wait until tomorrow, Abutu said calmly, though in his mind, he had fully resolved to wish for a huge pot of gold first thing in the morning. No matter, Favor said, standing in front of the mirror, admiring her new figure. Her twin sons, James and John, walked in and froze, their eyes wide with shock at their mother's transformed body. They quickly realized what had happened. Dad, we have an idea, James said, his voice filled with urgency. What is it? Abutu asked. The other twin chimed in. We think you should use your 1 remaining wish and wish for more wishes. Abutu smiled wearily. You cannot wish for more wishes, my children, and you cannot wish death on anyone. You lie! Favor shouted from the mirror, still admiring her new shape. Tomorrow morning, you will use the last wish and wish for my sister's death. James and John exchanged glances, inching closer to the exit door. They couldn't hold back any longer and began to lambast their mother. Mama, you are so foolish, James and John cried in unison. You wasted all the wishes. Instead of wishing for money, you wished for this nonsense, James added, throwing his hands up in frustration. Favor, oblivious to their words, finished applying her makeup, smiling at her reflection. She strutted out of the house, walking into the streets to be admired by the village men. Her walk was slow and deliberate, her hips swaying with every step. Her new curves drew the attention of every man she passed. Eyes widened, jaws dropped, and whispers filled the air. Favor basked in the envious and admiring glances of the villagers. Meanwhile, as she paraded down the streets, the twins were taking their father, Abutu, to a hidden location to prevent Favor from manipulating the last wish. The twin had a plan. They wanted their father to use the last wish to ask for bags of money and gold. But as they walked, Abutu's eyes fell on his wife, now surrounded by men who had led her lustfully. Anger began to boil within him. All the pent-up frustration and humiliation he had endured because of her came rushing back. He remembered the wasted wishes, the arguments, and the threats. The twins noticed their father's growing agitation and tried to drag him away, but they were too small to move him. Out of sheer frustration and spite, Abutu shouted, I wish my wife would make a huge fart right now, and as she farts, her old flat figure will return. The words had barely left his mouth when a loud, unladylike fart echoed through the streets. Favor froze in horror as the sound reverberated off the walls. The villagers who had been admiring her moments ago burst into laughter, pointing and mocking her. To Favor's utter dismay, her newly acquired curls began to deflate. her body shrinking back to its normal shape. Humiliated, Favor ran home, tears streaming down her face as the mocking laughter followed. The twins stood in shock, realizing their father had wasted the last wish. Overcome with regrets, Abutu walked to a lonely bush and sat down, tears flowing freely. He cried bitterly, chastising himself for letting his emotions get the better of him. He had misused the last wish, and now their chance at a better life was gone. As he wept, the old man who had given him the 7 wishes appeared before him. The old man's eyes were filled with wisdom as he spoke. "My son, God will bless you in due time. You're a good man, but you need to brave up. Go back home, be strong, and handle your family like a man. Your wife has learned her lesson, and if you stand your ground as a man, she will start to respect you. Do not give up. You don't need wishes to succeed in life. All you need is hard work and tenacity." With those words, the old man disappeared, leaving Abutu alone with his thoughts. Slowly, he wiped his tears, feeling a new sense of resolve washed over him. He stood up, straightened his shoulders, and began the walk back home. He knew he had made mistakes, but he also knew he could be a better man. He remembered his late mother's words. "My son," she would always say, "strive to be a better man every day." With the thought of his mother's love and the belief she had in him, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, resolving to build a better life for his family through his own strength and determination.